doors, the dream final of Dublin Kerry was the one favoured by the bookmakers and everybody, and here we have it. And let's just kill a wee lie before we start here. You know, people talk about these teams espousing the great qualities of Gaelic football, the beautiful game, etc. If a player needs hauled down on Sunday in the All Ireland final, should it be a Dublin player or a Kerry player, they'll be hauled down. These fellas are cute when it comes to the dark arts.
No better teams to do it. Like Dublin's performance against Mayo in the first game was as heavy and as cynical and as physical, whatever good word there is for it. And Kerry's the same, but there's no, I suppose from my point of view, there's nothing wrong. Them teams play right on the wire. They have invested huge amounts of energy and commitment to get to that level, and at that top level it is a fiercely competitive game out there, and I don't expect any of the players to be standing up and worrying about entertaining or otherwise. They're there to get results. With that, you hope that if both sets of players really go at it in the physicality and in the tactical battle to try to negate each other, there will be a fascination and there will be a great game can still come out of it. I would still absolutely maintain that when two teams are going hammer and tong, be it right on the edge or not, it can be a fantastic spectacle, and we've seen that down through the years. So absolutely, Kerry and Dublin play as defensive as anybody else. They know how to win with every meaning that you want to take from that statement. They know how to do it. They know how to close out games. They know how to negate other teams' key opponents. They know how to break up a team's purple patches in games. Essential qualities for winning the big titles. Both teams know it, and they'll not be found wanting in that regard.
Really looking forward to it too. You know, we can talk here about a poor enough championship or ordinary enough championship and stuff like that. You know, but the All Ireland final, I know it's a cliche, is the All Ireland final.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a great game. It's really nicely set up, as much for the number of players on both sides that are still not hitting form, and I think that's the fascinating thing. I don't think we've seen these two teams peak. We've seen probably Kerry peaking last year's All Ireland final. We haven't seen Dublin peak in maybe a year and a half. So there's an awful lot of unknowns. How much are them teams going to come up? You sort of feel, because unfortunately the two teams, barring maybe Mayo, are a wee bit ahead of the bunch. Dublin haven't had to peak all year. They had to come out certainly in the final 20 minutes against Mayo to put them to the sword, but how much that was Mayo's old frailties coming back to haunt them as it was Dublin's superb play, it's hard to know. Kerry would have always expected to beat Tyrone, and when you're expecting to beat a team in the semi-final, you're not going to hit your top game. You're not going to be coming into that game right on edge, right as sharp as anything you can be. If you're coming in expecting to win a game, which Kerry would have been against Tyrone, they're going to come in hoping to get through it, hoping to play well, but just riding it out. So I think there's another gear left in Kerry, and I absolutely expect there's another gear left in Dublin. So with that, with all of us trying to predict things from the outside, we don't know what these two teams are capable of in top gear. We know it should be pretty special if they both hit top gear, but who's going to win, I don't know. There's so many players that are a wee bit off the boil on both teams, key players, and that's how many of them can turn the switch. You wouldn't ordinarily think you can, but some of them will turn the switch, and it'll be the team that achieves that better.
And they're great teams, but I would also suggest great squads, because we may know who's going to start come Sunday, but you don't know who's going to finish, and that could be key to the eventual destination of the Sam Maguire.
Absolutely. This game will not be won by the 50th minute, and by the 50th minute there's going to be serious change of personnels. It'll be won by the 70th. So if it's been won in the last 20 minutes, it's the men on the pitch that at the finish that's going to decide this game. And with that, both camps have serious arsenal. Kerry, we don't really know which of them big players is going to start, whether Donaghy, Gainey, even Cooper. You know, there's so much unknown about the Kerry team, who's going to be and who's not. Dublin, obviously, poor old Kevin McMenamin, the ever super sub. I presume he's going to start from the bench again, but I think Fitzmaurice will have seen that. It's such a pattern for Dublin to do that, and for it to have such an impact. He's going to have to treat the likes of McMenamin as he would a first 15 player. He's going to have a defender looking at the videos of McMenamin, concentrating McMenamin, and that defender's going to have to switch from whoever he's marking for the first 40-50 minutes onto McMenamin, and it's going to be crucial for the likes of Fitzmaurice. But again, the managers are clever. They know the men that they can be thrown in. They also know the men that they're going to have to negate from the other side.
I look at so many lines and so many subplots in this game. Will Kerry and Kerry fans be concerned the fact that they appear to be teams can open them up. You looked at Cork and the Munster, and Munster opened them up. You look at Tyrone, opened them up. And this is a Tyrone team that are just coming. They're not, they're not near their peak yet, and yet they opened them up. And if they'd taken a couple of chances, it could have been Tyrone in the final. Will Kerry fans and management be worried about that?
It would have been much better for Dublin if Tyrone hadn't have achieved that in the semi-final. You want a team coming into the final when they don't know their weaknesses. Somebody as shrewd as Eamon Fitzmaurice, now that he's seen that, will know that Dublin will have looked at that and thought, well, if we can expose that weakness, then Fitzmaurice is going to turn around and try and shore that up. And certainly, I'm not sure he has a brilliant bunch of defenders to choose from. I think his strengths lie in the attack, in midfield, in the attacking half of the pitch. But he will be able to organise them and try to close up that centre, because certainly it's a style of game that would suit Dublin, that running game. So certainly that's something Fitzmaurice will have looked at. But as I say, it's much better when you know your weaknesses. You can address them. He's had 4 weeks to address them. He's had 2 good looks at Dublin, so he'll have loads of chances to set up his team in these close sessions down in Killarney. He'll have a plan well worked out, and I would be very surprised if Kerry cough up the same number of chances they did against Tyrone. And again, I'd go back to that point. I don't think Kerry were in absolute top gear against Tyrone.
Dublin, the kickouts, obviously, I think the Kerry midfield is very, very special. Big, strong men, hard running as well. Cluxton, has he been found out slightly this season, or is that just overhyped or overstated?
No, I think Cluxton's an excellent keeper. His kickouts are brilliant. The opposition have to work exceptionally hard to try and negate them, and you sort of have to set yourself up zonally as a forward line, as a midfielder. If you start following runners in the Dublin defence and midfield, you'll get completely lost, and there will be pockets of space open up, and Cluxton will expose them. Dublin, it's not so much Cluxton has been exposed. I think Dublin have been exposed that if you can shut off, and it takes a lot of hard work and organisation to do it, but if you can shut off that pinpoint perfect kick out, it's much more 50-50, and they do crack. And whenever Cluxton as a player, like every team has big players, and if you can put a key player under pressure, it seems to affect the rest of the team, and Cluxton appears to be that for Dublin. If you can affect Cluxton and force him into a few errors, which he's only human, he will do, that does seem to affect the rest of the rest of the Dublin team. So Fitzmaurice will be working very hard on trying to negate that Dublin kick-out strategy, which is excellent, but like everything, it can be negated, but it takes a lot of hard work.
With a tweet in there from one of the viewers was asking the question, who's the footballer of the year? The footballer of the year is in one of those 2 teams, so who's going to be crucial there? I look at the half backs. You talk about the attack, the Dublin attack is fantastic, and to be fair, Bernard Brogan stood up. I thought in the last game, some people think he's just a fancy Dan, but I tell you what, he stood up, he took it, he went for it, and he was superb. Along with several other players.
He stood up big style. The likes of Paul Flynn and Dermot Connolly. Dermot obviously with the circuit surrounding him, or the circus surrounding him, sorry. But Paul Flynn and Dermot Connolly, 2 huge players, or some of them players I was mentioning earlier, that just really haven't hit form or aren't carrying brilliant form into the final. And I think Dublin need them players playing right at the top of their game to win. I think Jack McCaffrey has been excellent this year. He's become much more consistent in his driving forward. Kieran Kilkenny seems to have again matured, and again you go back to thinking we probably expected too much of him when he was only a cub coming in. He's leading the line, has had some excellent games, but again has been hit and miss. What you seen, say, in the Tyrone Kerry match was that both teams were able to negate the key players on each side. Kerry's second string, so to speak, were better than Tyrone's second string, and so Kerry won out. So it wouldn't surprise me that both teams are able to negate the key men. So again, it comes to the fringe players, and it comes to the subs again, who's going to influence this game. Trying to have your top player having a standout performance when teams do so much attention on you or have so much time to plan for you is exceptionally difficult.
Can I ask a question? With injuries, Sullivan centre half back kind of knocking out because of the hamstring, and would it be fair to say that the teams that'll go into the match programme, you could basically treat them a pinch of salt, because the chances are there's going to be changes no matter what you look at. Like Kerry might name this here, and who knows if Donaghy'll start. Dublin may name, this side, they may name Bastick in the middle of the park, but Darren McCauley could be the man who starts. There's so many It's just, as I said earlier, it's just so many subplots.
There's realistically at least 20 players on both sides that would be well fit to take their place in the first 15, and probably the bulk of that 20 on both sides will see action, some at the more critical end of the game. So the starting 15 and the starting plot, that's only the settling out period in the game. It's actually not hugely important as overall result whenever you have two such mature teams. I don't expect, like sometimes you can have in a final where the more experienced, the stronger team can get a racing start and the other team cracks and the game's over in the first 15-20 minutes. I don't think that's going to be the case this match. I think the two teams are experienced enough that this game is, the first 15-20 minutes is going to be a sorting out period. The game's going to be won in that last 20 minutes. So in terms of who starts or who finishes, who comes in, it doesn't really matter.
And we've looked at the odds here with McLean's. Dublin are the slight favourites. They're offering evens over the 70 minutes. They're offering handicaps for Dublin. I've changed my mind several times about this, and I'm sure I will before throwing on Sunday. Who's going to win it?
McLean's, like the rest of us, are sort of sitting on the fence, aren't they?
Slightly.
They're not making it easy
and it's a
for
big
us.
fence.
It is. For me, with Kerry always, if you don't go out and really force the issue and win that game, Kerry will win. If we think of last year's All-Ireland final with Donegal, it was more Donegal's mistakes that allowed Derry to win the match than Kerry really driving Donegal away and going on and winning the match themselves. In this year's Tyrone semi-final, Tyrone had their chances but didn't take them, and Kerry drove on and won the match.
Sorry
Dublin,
to distract you too, will Mickey Hart still be the manager next year?
well, it's to be ratified tonight, isn't it? I think it's due tonight. He's apparently going to get 2 years, which would be very good. A big concern Tyrone was the stepping down of the under-21 management, which is hugely disappointing, and I would hope something can be worked out to sort that.
Okay, sorry for distracting you there, go ahead.
And in terms of then Dublin have, for me, been trying to keep things under wrap. Last year they came out in the National League in the early rounds of Championship. They were just phenomenal. We hadn't seen a football team play like it or reach their level, and then they got caught by Donegal in the semi-final. This year they have tried to keep it much lower key. They weren't really aiming for the National League, yet still went on and won it. They cantered through Leinster because there's no competition for them there in Leinster. They struggled with Fermanagh just because it was a fairly unique game. And then Mayo, it was more of a war of attrition, but I think there is more in that Dublin team. It's just whether they can flick that switch for the All-Ireland final. If Dublin flick that switch, I think Dublin have, in top gear, are a better side than Kerry. But All-Ireland final, Dublin have to have everything going for it, and I think Kerry will take it.